Deutsche Bank, and the struggling financial giant has now begun an overhaul which will cost 18,000 jobs. Roughly 1 in 5 of the workforce will go, starting in Asia and also affecting large swathes of staff around the world. Deutsche once dreamed of dominating the investment banking landscape, and now facing down the likes of Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. It never made it, struggling to find direction after the global financial crisis. And now the bank says the short-term pain is necessary to set the company, to set the bank on a new path.
Dieser Umbau wird leider auch Arbeitsplätze.
The restructuring, unfortunately, will also cost jobs. It's unavoidable, but we assume that we will manage this with our own power and don't need capital from our shareholders. But instead, in a few years, we'll be able to give back capital to our shareholders. A new era starts for the Deutsche Bank.
Well, what a better way to profile it than through the window of the ATM, as Deutsche restructures its banking profile. Now, the bank says it wants to grow in the corporate money management, but that won't come cheap. Expenses related to the overhaul will lead to a loss of more than $3 billion in the second quarter. They're going to front-load the losses, but overall losses will still be absolutely huge for the restructuring. Overall, it will be $8.3 billion by 2022, and it is the size and scale that is giving most concern. Over at the other ATM, you will get the analysts' reports on what they think. JP Morgan, for example, describes it as a bold plan, though execution is key, and it is execution which everybody is talking about. Credit Suisse, for example, calls it bold, warning the execution risk is high. And some shareholders have voted with their wallets. Deutsche stock is more than 5% off lower in Frankfurt. There was a slight blip on the restructuring possibilities, and then it sort of went down again. Jack Ewing is the European economics correspondent for the New York Times. He joins me from Frankfurt. He joins me via Skype. Jack, Deutsche had to do something. Is this what they needed to do?
Well, I think the plan is the right one. They definitely need to cut costs, and there's no way to do that except by cutting jobs. They needed to cut back on investment banking, which was not making money, has not been making money for several years. So it's the right plan. I think the question is it the right plan too late? They probably should have done a lot of these things 5 years ago or even 10 years ago, and now it may just be too late.
You are in Frankfurt. Now, nobody is suggesting, or maybe that I know of, that Deutsche goes out of business. It's Germany's largest bank, and it would have huge systemic. It's too big to fail, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't think the government could let it fail. I don't think the European Central Bank could let it fail, but that would be a quandary because supposedly under the new regime that we have since the crisis, taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for any more bailouts. But I think in this case, they just couldn't let a Deutsche Bank go down. It's the bank that symbolizes the German economy. There's too much at stake.
The idea of moving out of all equity trading, to a large extent, they're still going to have some equity desks, if only to facilitate existing customers. I mean, what are you going to do? You've got all these retail customers in Germany. And they want to buy some shares in Daimler or Benz. They're going to say, well, sorry, we can't do it. Go next door.
Well, they have a partnership with BNP Paribas that is going to handle some of that. They are retaining some equity functionality, but this is a big business that they're letting go of. It's around 2 billion euros a year in sales. So that is a legitimate question, and you're hearing that today. Are they going to lose customers because they're no longer offering all the services that they did in the past?
So what's left of Deutsche when this is all over? Is it sort of a middling to large size bank that's mainly retail focused in Germany?
Well, retail, and they say their big business is going to be helping corporations, especially German corporations, handling financial transactions abroad, payments, export financing, that kind of thing, which is all well and good, but not super high growth or super profitable.
And finally, which European bank can we now say stands in the top tier. I mean, you've got HSBC, well, that's Asia, even though London and Asia. You've got Barclays, well, it's not in that sort of league. You have, I mean, which European bank, if any, can rank pari passu with the JP Morgans, with the Citis, Bank of Americas?
But there isn't one, and that's kind of the sad thing, that there really is no European bank that is in the same league as those big American mega banks. And